Hello, 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 everyone. I'm really, really sorry. I don't know what happened on that last Facebook Live. I could see when my image went that it was looking pretty dodgy. So I'm hoping that people can jump back on here and we'll have another crack at it and that we get Ketan back on. So let's hope Ketan finds it. This is half the fun of having a live Facebook and doing everything live. Hey, Elvira, good to see you. That you just don't know what's going to go wrong. Hey, Claudia, good to see you too. So for those of you who weren't watching, I was doing a live Facebook conversation with Koffee with Kul with the amazing Ketan Makwana. And suddenly it just died on me. I don't know what happened. It just died. Hey, Ush, good to see you. Half the fun of having Facebook Lives, Ush. You know, you have to cope with this. So I'm hoping that Ketan will jump back on. I'm going to send him a quick message to let him know. And because I just know there's so many nuggets of gold that are going to come. Here he is. Let me just send him a message. There we go. Just sent him a message to jump back on and we will continue chatting with Ketan Makwana. Ketan's an amazing individual. I really do respect him an awful lot. He's inspired me in many, many ways. And I just love that he's as passionate about leadership as I am. And I want to get into that leadership space, but we're also going to talk about, success. What does success look like? What does success mean? And Ketan has some really interesting views. And I remember, here he goes. He's coming back. We're just going to let the conversation just flow.
Hey, we're back.
Do you know what? I was just saying, one of the challenges of doing a live broadcast is that you have to cope with everything that comes along. So, hey, and you and I are not going to be fazed by that.
I just wrote that I think I disrupted Facebook then. That's what happened.
And Ketan is the disruptor. So, Ketan, I think that's a really good point to just start on. We're going to start again now. So, you are renowned as the disruptor. When you talk about disrupting, I mean, disrupting as a word, people might see that in a very negative kind of connotation, but I love the concept of disrupting. What's your take on it? Why do you call yourself the disruptor?
Actually, it's not me that calls myself the disruptor. This actually goes back to well, this goes back to 2011. So as you know, in the UK we had the riots. There was the missing millions, and you had all the looting and robbing and all of that stuff going on. I created a landmark event to support 18 to 30-year-olds, and part of the opportunity that I had was to get the Prime Minister back then, David Cameron, involved in this process. And I almost messed my lines up. The things that I did running up to meeting him, I could have missed my opportunity. And to cut a long story short, he was about to walk away and I grabbed his arm. And then I thought to myself, oh my God, what have I just done? But I pitched to him. I was really passionate and really into the core of what I wanted to do. I believed so much on what I wanted to do that my body was writing a check that I couldn't really cash at that moment in time. Yeah. Anyway, we completed the event. It was a success. It was one of the largest, and still is one of the largest events for young people in the UK. And then I got summoned back to Downing Street, and to have the former Prime Minister of the UK just look at you and then turn around and say you're a bit of a disruptor, I thought, oh, I like the sound of that. So David Cameron, if you're watching, it's because of you. It's because you said that I was a disruptor. That's why. But what does being disruptive actually mean? As I always hark on, there are three things that are very important about being disruptive. See, disruption has for so long been seen as a negative or has negative connotations to it. If you think of academic environments, people talk about those that disrupt are very much, they disrupt the class and then they need to be ejected out. But there are three things that I've learned about being disruptive. The first thing is you have to challenge convention. You can't see things or you can't just accept things for the way they are. You know,
Absolutely.
I always believe on the line that there's going to be more than one answer to any one question. So don't just believe the hype. Don't just believe everything you see. You know, question integrity. I mean, you remember when you were a young boy, you used to question everything. When you're young, you don't accept the answer that's given to you. You always challenge. So challenging convention is one of the first things that you've got to think about. After that, it's about creating an imbalance. You see, we live in this whole airy fairy, fluffy world that we've just got to be socially accepted and everything's got to be right and everyone's got to love us and we've got to get instant gratification and we've got to do this and we've got to do that. And everyone's, you know, it's not nice if someone doesn't see something right in you. Creating an imbalance is all about positivity and negativity. And I use the
Yeah.
analogy of throwing a rock into a pond. When you throw a rock into the pond, the rock falls down to the base of the actual pond. But what happens to the surface of the water? It goes up and down. And negativity and positivity creates and evokes that change. You see, because not everyone's going to get you or understand you right from the beginning. And that's okay. You know, that's not what it's about. You see, at the end of the day, if you bring something new to the market, people are either going to be drawn to it or they're going to resist it. You know, cryptocurrency.
Absolutely.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, I mean, I love the analogies that you use there for disruption, but in essence, what you're saying is disruption really is about challenging convention. It's about doing things differently, and I guess being
and
fresh,
keep taking action
being
and
fresh,
keep
and
taking action. This is the thing.
keep taking action.
You know, look, being disruptive didn't just come one day. I didn't wake up and all of a sudden decide, right, that's it, I'm going to be disruptive. You know,
Yeah,
it was almost bestowed upon me. Someone else saw it and says you're being disruptive. Then I started to think to myself, what is it? What is it about being disruptive? Why is it? Now, you know, how many of you would really get into Downing Street and manhandle the Prime Minister in his own backyard? I wouldn't recommend you do it, but let me tell you something.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you didn't get arrested though,
Neither
Kurt.
do I, but it launchpad me. You know, I still create imbalances. I advise prime ministers and
Yeah,
other government officials around the world today. You know, I sit in their meetings and, you know, sometimes just I'm on my phone and until it's my time to speak in this respect. And I think for
yeah,
me, you know, you've got to keep taking the action because people won't get you straight away. And
absolutely.
I think we still live in a society today where we want to be accepted for, you know, for who we believe we are, and we don't want people to look at us from a negative perspective or think you're not doing something.
Yes.
But if you're not drawing negativity out along with your positivity, then you're not disrupting. And you just got to keep taking action. You know, this, as I said, it's
Yeah.
taken me years to get to this. It's not happened overnight. And you know, God knows where with this
I agree.
continued action it's going to take us moving forward.
See, when I was a leader, you know, in the police service, I did not want to become compartmentalized and I didn't want to become institutionalized. So I continued to take action to be me, to be a very authentic me, and be a leader in accordance with my own value systems. Now that stood me apart from so many
Yeah,
others. At times, it made me sort of isolated from my own peer group of other senior
yeah,
officers, but I was comfortable in that space because I was doing what I felt was absolutely natural
yeah,
for me. But when it comes to disrupting, there's two things that can be the negative side of it. So you can either not be a disruptor at all and just fall in with society and just do what you think others expect of you. In that case, you will never grow. You'll never move
yeah,
forward. And the other flip side is that you can be over disruptive, where you think that if I just keep putting negative comments out, that's going to attract me
yeah,
attention. And you just do it for the sake of doing it. I don't think that's healthy
yeah,
either. And we had a conversation early on about social media. I think social media now has given us a platform, all of us, a platform to air
yeah.
views. And just in the last week, I've seen comments on social media from people in the business space who literally just make these comments and you think, why do you do that? And it's just to get attention. What's your view on that?
Well, look, everyone has their own way of doing things. Sometimes people will put things out because they're airing their own vulnerabilities. Sometimes what they're doing is putting stuff out there so they can see are there others that have reaction responses to it. Like you say, there are some that specifically are trying to draw attention to themselves. There's no right or wrong, Cool. You know, it's just the way it is. I think, you know, it's unfair of me and hypocritical of me to then go off and be a judge in on that kind of perspective. But what I would say is that at the end of the day, if you're going to manifest negativity, as a part of your disruption, be ready to actually provide value that also bring positivity as well. And
Absolutely.
this is what I really really appreciate about a few people in the space. They may challenge the status quo, which is great. That's what we want them to do. But they come prepared. It's not I'm doing this from an ill-educated plight. You see, they have something within there. Now, if you want to have a fight on social media, at the end of the day, if you don't want people to give an adverse reaction to you, don't post on social media, because at the end of the day, it's an open forum. You've got to be prepared to take the rough with the smooth. And this is the thing that you see with the majority of people. They come in manifesting these messages, thinking that all they're going to get is people supporting them all the way. I don't want arse lickers to come in and like me and support me for whatever it is. If you think I'm wrong, challenge, because you know what? That's where the intellect gets stimulated. That's where the conversation gets to the next level. And there are people out there who just do not like it when you hit them at that point. So, at the end of the day, as we were saying, being disruptive requires both negativity, the imbalance that you create, but you've got to keep following that action up. If you don't follow it, you will lose.
Yeah. The other interesting thing around social media, I find, Ket, is that for me, it is just so very noisy at times. And I live by the fantastic quote that I literally quote all the time, and I live my life by, from Jim Rohn, about you become the average of the 5 people whose company you keep most. Now, yours and mine sort of timelines will be full of people within the entrepreneurial space. But do you keep the company of all the entrepreneurs in that space?
No, I think you could probably extend that quote now to 5 influences rather than the company. I mean, we live in such frenetic times that because of things like social media, you don't necessarily have to physically be with people. I think back when Jim mentioned this is very much about the physical connectivity that you have. But this is all about influences now. Today, today I could be an influence in someone, but I'll be gone tomorrow. And I guess what happens now is that these 5 people that you kind of mentioned within the quote from an analogy base, they're constantly changing and churning. They constantly move around. Now there are a few people within my network that I'm constantly around and consume, and these are like my business partners or my venture partners. These are kind of people that I look and admire. A lot of the time, I'm the idiot in the room. I'm the least experienced. I'm the one that probably knows the least in that environment, and that's because I choose to be. I don't want to be the top player. I want to be the kind of person that learns from all these other environments.
Because their average will pull you up.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that.
I mean, Ty Lopez, just to add, Ty Lopez has this kind of 33% rule. Jamie Alderton once told me this, and props to Jamie, is that you spend a third of your time with people that have a knowledge level which is below you. You spend a third of the time with people that are kind of complement and around the same, and you spend a third of the time with people that are above you. You do need to create those mixes of influences, otherwise you will just remain static as you go along. If you spend too much time with people that don't, or influences that are under your sort of knowledge level or experience level, it will bring you down. If you spend too much time with people that are exactly the same as you, you'll plateau. And if you spend too much time with people that are above you, then what tends to happen is you create stretch goals where sometimes you create more of an imposter syndrome within yourself.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. I'm so pleased that you mentioned that, because we talked about imposter syndrome this morning, didn't we? Yeah. Let's talk about imposter syndrome then. Right. What frustrates you about it? What is it? And how does it affect people?
Cool, man. You're taking all of my topics from my life, right? But that's cool.
I'm stealing it all. I'm stealing it all.
Imposter syndromes. It works in 2 ways. I mean, there is a lot of people out there that genuinely want to create value, make a difference, even mainly to their first to their own lives. Especially those that have decided to leave work and start a business, or those that are trying to struggle their way through trying to generate an income. from their own business. But what we tend to find, and one of the things that I've highlighted and posted about during a live this week is about, even when you think you're succeeding, you're failing, is that you're not punching above your weight. You become very comfortable and complacent on the basis of saying, right, this is who I am, this is what I can do, and these are the only people that I can serve. And as a result of that, what tends to happen is you become, if you were to try and push yourself to the next level, you think to myself, if I win that client, I'm going to mess it up. So there's a part of imposter syndrome which is very much about, am I good enough to do this? Should I really do this? What if I mess up? But the principle of what you do, whether the client is a small client or a bigger client, is the same. It's just the audience is different.
And yet we think, if we get a really big client here, we have to behave differently. We have to offer a different service. But actually that client engages with you because of what you're already offering. So my view is you just continue to offer. You just offer good value to whoever it is that you're engaging with.
And the flip side of this call is the imposter syndrome, where you think you're actually something that you're not. You try to be everything to everyone. And I've been guilty of that in the past. I've been guilty, when I first started out, I thought I have to be everything to everyone because that's the only way that I'm going to be able to succeed. And actually, that it was a part of my imposter syndrome that was saying to myself, well, I've got to be a salesperson, I've got to be a strategist, I've got to be a marketer, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And eventually, you just become so average that you become lame. And eventually, the pipeline of interest or what you magnetize starts to become more and more limited. You don't have to do that. Believe in yourself. Mitch Miller recently, I interviewed for my Inner Circle program, said one thing. He goes, stop selling yourself. Stop selling what you do and just share what you stand for. Because people buy people, but before they buy that, they need to trust you. So, what do you genuinely, honestly, how many of you can honestly come onto a platform and speak from your heart and say, this is what I stand for. I don't stand for this. I don't stand for that. And because I do that sometimes, I get lambasted for it. I've been questioned. This year alone, I've been questioned several times to say you're a bit of a fraud, that you don't do this, that you don't do that, and what do you really do? And, do you really disrupt things? And I'm like, do you know what? I'll take them on the chin. I go, I can have it publicly with you. I can have a conversation private with you. I know who I am. I know what I can do. I know what I stand for. And for me, it's more about my results that speak for me. I'm still in business. I'm winning awards. I'm getting around the world. I'm getting new clients, and I'm happy. So at the end of the day, whatever it is that I'm doing.
And you know what? I think there's a level of maturity in all of that. What you've just talked about there. Part of this for me is about true authenticity. So you're now comfortable in just being you, and this whole concept of not wanting to sell yourself, because you don't need to sell yourself. If people see the true authentic self that you are, and they see the constant value that you give, and this is why I do my daily Facebook lives. I enjoy doing my daily Facebook lives. I enjoy giving value on a daily basis, but people see who I am, and I want to remain authentic. I don't need to pretend anymore at this stage of my life to be something else, and the business will come. But what people don't understand when it comes to business is it's not just about the face that you see on Facebook, LinkedIn, or wherever. Beneath all of that, to be a successful business person, there's an awful lot of work that goes on. Now, in this society of instant gratification, I know this is a frustration of yours as it is mine. Just share with us, if you would, some of the heartache, some of the stuff, the legwork that you do in your business.
Look, I mean, let's go back to the piece about authenticity. For anyone that's watching this right now, live or recorded, fuck authenticity. Sorry to swear on your thing. Stop putting this whole word about being authentic, because every time you strive to be authentic, you're being authentic. You're being someone else's authentic. You compare your authenticity to someone else and think, oh, this is the way they're authentic. That's what I'm kind of like. You start associating yourself to what their authenticity is. I've always said, never compare your success to anyone else's, because it's yours. So do you know what? Change your language. Change your language to, what am I real? What am I real at? What do I really, really believe in? What is it that I really, really value? What pisses me off? And what elates me, and whatever that is, that's your authenticity. Let's start there. Number one, okay? Now, as I said, part of my career, it's never been about authenticity right at the beginning. I've been everything to everyone when I first started because that's the way I thought I was. I wasn't being authentic. I was just following what I believe customers wanted. Henry Ford said it once. If I gave everyone what they wanted, they want faster horses. I'd give them faster horses and stuff like this. The fact of it is you're going to come to a point in your journey where you're going to say, why am I doing this for everyone else? Is it really satisfying my soul? Are for those of you who are coaches, consultants, experts and stuff like this out there, you take clients on. Why? You're not taking clients on that suit you. You take clients on for the convenience of the money that they give you. Okay. That's honest. That's the honesty. I don't do that anymore. I just don't take clients on willy-nilly and have a pipeline and push and push and push. All I want to do is work with the people that I know I can make a real impact and effect with. And that means that for me, it's become much more of a selfish thing. At the end of the day, the money will come if you're true to your word. So there have been times where I've taken on clients and I think to myself, why did I take this person on, or this company on? It's not in my main sort of arena of expertise. And this is the thing, we try to be everything to everyone. We almost become social media experts when we're not. We also become, marketing experts when we're not. We've got life coaches that are now become business coaches. We've got business coaches that are now doing life coaching. What the hell is that all rubbish about, basically? That's not authentic. That's just following the trend, You've got people, so for me, the path of discovery came away from the more I started to believe in what can I do for people and why am I doing that, and is it satisfying my soul? Is it making me feel more
really testing everything against your own inner values,
absolutely,
to see whether your internal compass is in alignment with what you're doing. And this is something I'm really, really big on. And if it doesn't feel right, or if the other person doesn't feel right, then you should be brave enough to be able to walk away from
the
that.
power of no is just as powerful as the power of yes, in that respect. And I just think we sometimes get caught up in this bubble where we think, I haven't made enough money. How am I going to support my living? So I'm just going to go and dip into this other pool for a little while. That's dangerous because actually what you're doing is you're letting toxicity seep back into your business, back into your life. Now it becomes a situation of people see you and say, they're a bit confused. I thought you were a specialist in this. How come you're doing that? Or you give such an average service that you're never going to get that kind of client again. A short-term win is a long-term pain. Okay, that's what it is. A short-term win is a long-term pain. So if you're in the game for short-term wins, stay in that lane. Don't look for longevity in that. You're going to have to find lots and lots of people where you're going to do little things. In the other way, and it's taken me years. It's taken me 6-7 years to move and transition to this thing where, for me, it's all about longevity. I was just explaining to you on our chat before we went live, just the abundance of connections are coming at such a high level through to me, and I don't know where they're coming from. We don't have a marketing campaign. We don't do lead generation processes anymore because it's not that I don't believe in them. It's because I'm trying to quieten down what I'm doing at the moment. I want to refocus back into where the values are and what I want to do. And when you've got education directors of Kidzania and you've got people from banks contacting you and saying, we want to work with you, there's a bit of imposter syndrome that comes back in me and says, why me? A little bit. Then I start to understand that, well, how did you find me? We've pushed out for the last 6 months to be more referral driven rather than push out and say that we've got to.
I was just going to come on to the whole concept of referrals. So if you deliver the highest level of quality that you can deliver, then trust in the referral syndrome, that people talk to people and organize and industries will talk amongst themselves, and that's where your referrals come
absolutely.
from. I started the moment I realized that, Ketan, 2017 for me has been an incredible year. So I'm like several years behind you in terms of my business. I had 32 years of.
I wouldn't say that.
I'm learning a lot. But I had like 32 years of working in the public sector. I don't know anything about business. I came into this knowing nothing. So I made a lot of mistakes, and we'll talk about mistakes because I think they're so very important. I made a lot of mistakes in the first year, but then something switched inside of me. And I made a conscious decision to follow my values and just to keep giving highest level of value to whoever I could, whenever I could. And as a consequence of that, this year has seen me getting a lot of business through referrals where I can be quiet. I'm not pushing so much on sales and things like that. I'm marketing myself, and it's been a real eye opener for me. And I've got a long way to yet to go with this. But I'm learning everything that you just said there. That the more you give of yourself, the better quality that you give of, then trust in the
Yeah.
process, and look at longevity as opposed to those short-term
Yeah, I
wins.
mean, for me, we're carving much more of a whatever we do within our organization, my organization, or whatever I do for myself. It's got to satisfy my soul, because at the end of
Mm.
the day, I'm not giving my 100. I'm not giving 150% if it's not satisfying my soul. So being able to turn down clients, turning people away, telling them that that's it, we don't want to do this program anymore.
Yeah.
It's at some point some people think, why? Well, you're absolutely crazy, but I'm like, no. I said I've got to a stage in my career, my business career in life, that I think if I'm not, it's not about what I enjoy doing, but if it's not satisfying me inside, if it's not exciting
Mm.
me, I'm not, I don't want to do it anymore, because what's the point? At the end of the day, I'm now living someone else's dream. I'm taking the opportunity from someone else's mouth. That it's not about being competitive or collaborative. It's more of a sense of I've got to be happy in what I'm doing. And this journey, guys, if those of you watching this, you're on an endless journey of discovery. It's never going to stop. Around every corner there is something new, but it's
Absolutely.
down to you, the way you perceive things, the way you pick things up. And this is why our mission is 1% perception. We just want to change the way you see something by 1%. I don't guarantee you a 10x in sales. I don't guarantee you a 100x in your revenue. I don't guarantee that you're going to retire at 50 or whenever you're going to retire. All I can guarantee is that I can change the way you see something by 1%. And that's probably one of the most powerful things that anyone can have, whether you're a CEO or a cleaner.
Absolutely, 100%. Because of course, what comes out of that still remains that you've got to take action on what you've learned. So if you've grown by, I always talk about 2 millimeters, grow by 2 millimeters. But if you grow by that tiny little percentage, or you change your
Mm,
perception by that tiny little percentage, you've still got to take action on
I
top of
agree.
that. So, so don't tell yourself that I've learned something new and that's it. I'm going to be immediately successful, or I'll be a millionaire within 6 months, or whatever it is. It isn't going to happen unless you take that action, and even then, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, and it's just actually you just said that one of the Karen's just made a post about a comment that says that people have become conference junkies by getting rich programs and seeing the holy grail saving their business is such bullshit, to do the work, simple as. And it's a very valid point to what we're discussing here. There's been a whole generation, or a period of time where everyone gets to seminars, everyone goes to these major conferences, which is fine. At the end of the day, it allows you to consume energy,
Mm.
build all this kind of stuff up. But most people actually don't do anything about it after that. And I'll tell you why. The secret is everyone wants a silver bullet. Everyone wants that simple answer. They
Mm.
don't want to do the work. They just want the answer. Now, when they get the answer,
Mm.
guess what? They still don't know how to do it. So they move up a level and they start, right, I've got the answer, but I'm going to get someone to help me do it. Guess what? At that
Yeah.
stage, they still won't do it. And this is why a lot of coaching and mentoring doesn't work, because the recipient
Yeah.
is still not ready to take action. It gets to the stage where ultimately
Yeah.
what they want is they want you to do it for them, but they don't want to pay you for it. They
Absolutely.
don't want to recognize you for it. They don't want to reward you for it. They just want you to do it. And this is the biggest issue that we have with the market space. So this is why we shut down. We shut down all our marketing. I thought I'm not going to open up, and I'm going to get, kind of try and people to
Yeah.
come onto a program. Do you know what I want to do? Is if you're empowered and you're committed and you want to do it, you'll come. If you don't want to be a part of my crew, don't. If you can leave whenever you want, you can join whenever you want, but it's up to you. You've got to be committed when you're in there. If you don't see the value, tell me and leave. It's absolutely fine. This is why we shut down. And the people that my organization works with today are the people that believe that they want to make the difference. When you go to a country, into a country which has been quite communist regime suppressed, for a number of time, one of the biggest employers in that country And people actually fear to speak up to this, to their board because of the fear of losing their jobs. And you work with them for 2 days and you show them that actually you can make an impact and actually change their fortunes. When they now turn around and said, we want you to come back and work with us more and more and more, that's who I want to work with. Not people that just think I'm going to give them a silver bullet. So if you're looking for a silver bullet,
yeah, I think
it's
one of my biggest qualifiers when I talk to prospective clients is my test on what level of commitment and action they're prepared to take as part of the whole coaching process. Because we all know coaching will only work when the client is going to take the action. So we just change their perception or change their growth by 2 millimeters. It is down to them to take action.
Yeah,
I simply
but
cannot.
cool. Let me just interject here very quickly. David Paul's just also come in and says, he goes, these people are just what you're describing. There are two solutions. One, don't work with them. Two, don't promise them the world. You're absolutely right. But put it this way. There is an element of this whole thing about taking action, and continuously taking action. And there is that imposter syndrome that comes back into this. People still don't think they're good enough. And it's not about promising them world. What happens is when you're a coach or a mentor, you start to create guarantees, to people. You start selling them a silver bullet. But these silver bullets don't exist. You have to invest in your own self, and it's a long road. It's not going to happen overnight. But there is this whole thing that people believe, I've got this thing and it's going to happen overnight. You see all these quite successful guys out there. Now, I've got a lot of them coming into my sort of inner circle doing, interviews and stuff like this. These guys have invested heavily in their own personal development to get to where they are. It's not a facade that, they've just been marketing and become successful. They, go out and understand what makes them who they are today, why they're actually making attraction. Don't judge them from the front end of they're either pitching this or doing that, basically. So it's kind of.
But it's so very easy to do, isn't it? It's so very easy to see somebody who's been very successful and say, I want that, because we live in this world of instant gratification. I want what that guy's got. But what they don't understand is how much work has gone on for probably several years underneath all of that. And that's where I think society has taken us to this, I want everything right now. I was talking to a coach, a new coach, only a few months ago, and he was saying, Cole, I want what you've got. I said, well, it's taken me 2.5 years to build what I've got. He said, I haven't got time. I haven't got 2.5 years. These guys were like nearly half my age. He said, I haven't got time for 2.5 years. I want it right now. And how do you tell these people or convince these people that they need to put the hard graft in?
You don't. At the end of the day, they're just not ready. This is one of the things that I'm not saying that I don't work with startups anymore and stuff like that I've gone up an echelon. We still have within our organization, we focus on helping people launch and grow their businesses right the way through to, as I say, focusing on our sort of on talent and team dynamics and for success into the future. But when you've got someone who demonstrates an attitude like that, it means that they're not ready, which means the only work you can do with someone like that is changing perception. You've got to change their behavior towards something. And sometimes it's taking them back to basics and say, you didn't didn't come out of your mother's womb basically saying ABC 1 2 3. There was a journey. You weren't walking. You've got to build this whole process on. Most of the guys out in the market that I'm going to quote as saying successful, and what I mean by that is they're getting the results that they desired. It's taken them years. Mitch Miller is someone that's a really good friend of mine that I really, really respect. It took him 6 years to get it right in the online game. 6 years of just not making any money. We talk about Lyft.
And of course, perhaps even losing money.
Yeah, well, look at Lyft, the competitor to Uber, for example. The CEO at Lyft didn't take a salary for 3 years. What are you prepared to do, guys? What are you prepared to do to get to where you want? How far are you prepared to sacrifice to get to where you want to? At the end of the day, people look at me and say, it's all right for you. You're always on a plane gallivanting some other country. You're doing some tour somewhere else. You've got such an exciting job. most of you probably won't realize that even before these existed, I used to get on a plane. I used to put myself on a plane, go to an unknown country, and go and put myself in front of people and say to people, book me, get me involved, let me do something. It's taken years to get to that. So success is only measured by what you put into it, and success should be only what you believe it is. Now, the more you pursue, the more the dynamic of success changes. What that success becomes. Because look, cool. If you aspire to have £1 million business, what happens when you get to 1 million? What's going to happen? What are you going to say to yourself? You aspire to become £1 million business owner.
You're always going to want more, aren't you? Because there's no ultimate end to success, and I think life has to be a constant growth.
Precisely. But my point being here is that most people gather all of those successes straight away. They haven't even hit the million yet, and they're saying, right, I want to be a 10 million. So what happens is you cluster all these different types of success models and aspirations that you have. Why? Because you're influenced by the noise from everyone else. Oh my God, they've got that, I need that. Oh my God, they have that. Why is it that person gets a client? Why is it this person and I don't get this? The fact of it is, you're not taking time to go and understand what it is that they've had to do to invest in, what sacrifices they've made. I jump on planes. I spend almost 8 months of the year away from my family, from my loved ones, from the sanity of my own home. I'm putting strain on my body, when you're doing all these different things. These are the commitments I'm making for my success, not for yours, not for anyone else's. It's my success. If I reach there, I'm happy. If I don't, I keep pursuing. So how much are you prepared to invest in what you want to do to succeed? And how far are you willing to go?
It's what Les Brown always says, how hungry are you for this? And if you are truly hungry for that level of success, whatever success looks like to you, you have to put that work in. And it's that work with many successful people that we simply do not see, because it's very quiet. It's very quietly done. It's all behind the scenes. It's not all over social media, I know that you post up every now and then that, you're flying to this place or that place. But in terms of you getting to where you are right now, you've put years and years of hard graft into this.
And still do. Every day, every day it's today, my hard graft is not going into me. It's all about the team that I'm building around me. I'm investing all my time into nurturing the talent within my organization, because I believe that's my future. That's the investment that I'm making. Some people say, well, it's a risk. I mean, I'm paying people and I'm kind of carrying them a little bit at the same time, but that's my prerogative. That's my investment into what I do. I know that there's going to come a time where I'm going to start to plateau and the future needs to take over. And if I haven't prepared that baton handover, then we're going to fail. So, hard graft, it doesn't necessarily have to be hard. It can be smart, but you have to be committed. I mean,
but you have to do it.
Oh no, of course. And I mean, look, I post not only about when I travel, I sometimes also post about things like digital and cryptocurrency and stuff like this, and the bits and pieces that I'm doing.
Just going to talk about cryptocurrency.
I know.
Here's a prime example, isn't it? This is a real prime example. I mean, I'm not involved in cryptocurrency, because I understand it's not as easy as it looks. It can be successful, but you have to put the work in. There is nothing in the world where you can get overnight success just like that.
I am getting sick to I get sick to death of the amount of people that are contacting me saying, can you give me some advice? What are you using? How are you using it? I'm like, I've made posts on this specifically. I do not teach or train on cryptocurrency. What did I do? I went away and I studied videos. I watched videos. I followed trends, and believe me, guys, I've lost just as much as I've won. Okay, I was explaining this to Kul before we came on the live here. I lost almost $3,000 in one trade in 90 seconds. Imagine this: I'm on a train. I'm on my way to a meeting in Waterloo. I'm doing some trading. I'm £800 up. I'm then £1,200 down. Then I'm this and that and that. By the time I got off the end of the end of the line at Waterloo before my meeting, I was down. I was down on cash. Now, let me ask you something, guys. If you start doing something like that, how much is it going to affect your brain? How you're functioning. That you've just lost almost a month's salary, for example, in a couple of minutes. It resounds in your head. I just knew to myself, this is not something I can deal with right now. I'm going to have to go back and deal with it again. You've got to understand that you've got to prepare for losses as much as your successes. But the thing is, again, and this is why I'm going to do my live today, even though when you think you're winning, you're actually failing, it's because people just see the facade. They just see that, we may put up a post and say, oh my God, it's gone to 8,000 or it's gone to 11,000. And they just think, yeah, I've got to get on this wagon. But when you challenge people and say to, are you prepared to invest into it, or it's too expensive? They're not even prepared to buy a £99 course to actually learn how to do it. Do you know why? Because it comes back to this whole mentality. I have no inclination of doing it. I just want someone to do it for me. I just want someone to give me the silver bullet.
And that is across the board with life in general, and particularly with business. So people will look at you and say, well, your business is at X level. I want to be at X level. And you say, well, you have to put the work and you have to start at ground floor and get into the lift and start. No. I can't do that now. I'm not prepared to do it now because it's already gone to this level. And so when is the time that they need to jump on board if they want success? It's always now.
Always now.
But a lot of people
remember,
a lot of people
remember, success, as we just discussed, is a fluid concept. It's going to change around every corner as your experiences go, and as you move around, your success changes. Stop gathering it all, collecting it all together. I want this. Take one piece at a time. Take one journey at a time. You're going to lose friends. You
celebrate every move forward. That's what I do. Every little tiny little thing, I'm happy and I'm celebrating, and then I move on.
But
to
then
the
you
next.
see, as I was saying to call guys, basically before this call, let's imagine this is your capacity. You're cramming too much into it. Now, if you've got too much in your capacity tin, how are you going to let anything else come into it? You've got to lose certain things as well. So, along the journey, you're going to win friends, you're going to lose friends, you're going to win influences, you're going to lose influences. You're going to find people that you admired and looked up to are the very people that are actually pulling you down in that respect. And you've got to be brave and bold enough to turn around and say, actually, every corner that I turn, I've got to have a capacity to let something in. But what we're doing is we hold on to too many things too tightly because we're scared that if we let go of it, we're never going to get it back again. But the point of it is, you've all been there, guys. Sorry, Paul. You've all been there. You've been there in that stage where you change your school or you change your job and you lose your friends from your old job, and then what happens? Eventually, you make new friends. You find new people. In fact, sometimes some people find their life partners like that. And so what I'm saying is, stop cramming too much into this capacity that you have. You are human. You can only do so much. Remove the toxicity out and let something fresh come in.
Yeah, I think part of that is our innate fear of change. And I think you have to flow with change, because change is the one thing that's inevitable in your life. And I've got so good at just allowing change to happen around me, because I know that if I want something different, I have to do something different. I have to be something different and be somewhere different. And it is simple as that concept. I just want to read some of these comments. I'm just flicking up and down. Some amazing comments here. So Karen says, hey, Karen, good to see you. All the way in South Africa, aren't you, Karen? That's what she's talking about hard work. And she says, that's what I did. I packed my bag, slept on couches, did what I needed to do. Absolutely right. And good on you, Karen. Aisha says, just be cautious of looking over the garden fence and believing everything you see. Many people are presenting a facade that isn't real, and actually there are a handful of people, I believe, who are genuinely successful. Bang on. I think that's very true. Karen says, you do whatever it takes. It's not glamorous, it's dog shit work, and you have to embrace it and love it and embrace it if that's how it is. That is it. I think that really sums up what we've been talking about. It can be a real grind. It can be an absolute grind, but you have to be passionately in love with it and hungry. David says, if the person is not hungry, and it's easy to tell, we can walk away and look for like-valued people. Absolutely. And what else is there? And he also says, what is happening today with a desire to be a coach or to jump into Bitcoin is exactly what happened in the 18th, 19th century when people were panning for gold. I love it. I
I
love
like
it.
this one.
So this is just like a modern.
I love this.
You're like a gold miner then.
I like this one by David King, because I totally agree. I tell you what pisses me off is seeing people pretending their message came from them. Simon Sinek talks about the why and how many people have I seen copy that with no bloody reference. Do you know what this raises a really interesting point? And as I say, the noise is also that circle of influence. You become influenced by the fact that you keep hearing the same thing over and over and over again in different frames and forms, that you almost believe that that's you. And as a result of that, you start to become something you're not. There's a lot of times that
Yeah.
people will just take quotes. I mean, this is okay. I get it. You can post something that inspires you on your page. It's up to you whatever you want to do in that respect. But if you are going out there and presenting yourself as a professional and expert authority in one particular area, it's not about being authentic. It's about being original. And
Yeah.
talk from your heart. It doesn't have to be articulated in such greatness. But when you answer a question, it's in your humble opinion. It's in your opinion, in your life. No one can take that away from you, because no one else has ever lived your life the way you've lived it. So that's the way to be original. I mean, when I get asked to do certain things or what my opinion is, I'm like, are you sure you want my opinion? Because I may say something that you don't like. But at the end of the day, it's just that. It's just my opinion.
We were talking about this
Yeah,
earlier on, weren't we? About, really finding yourself. And I used to get so many people. I used to coach so many people in the police service nationally around
yeah,
interviews, and people got really hung up on what kind of questions will they ask me? How can I answer these questions? And I always just say, well, understand first and foremost why you want this particular job that you're going for, this promotion, this specialist post. When you know in your heart of hearts why you want it and you're really passionate about it, you can handle any question because you come from a place of truth.
absolutely.
And that's it for
The
me.
truth will always
By the
set you
way,
free,
Kerry,
brother. The truth will
sorry?
always set you free. But
Yeah, absolutely. Kerry, I'm sorry you're from UK, not South Africa. Just noticed that. David says people just watch TED and build their own presentation. This morning I did a Facebook chat and spoke about values, but quoted Kul. I told my audience my thoughts and my experience and how I learned them. Got more value from
oh,
it. I got more value. Well,
I've
thank you very
got a
much,
great
David.
question here from Ace that says, how do you know who or what is toxic and to remove? Um,
Oh wow, that's a good one. That's a good one.
do you know?
Do you want to answer that first, or shall I?
Go for it. You're the host.
No, no, no. You go. I'm quite relaxed. I'll jump in.
Okay, so it's very hard. The thing about toxicity is it takes time. You see, growth is invisible. It's one of the points I was going to make a bit earlier, and thanks for raising that question, Ace, because growth is very, very invisible. I talk about the analogy of putting a seed into a pot. When you put it into a pot of soil, you nurture it with water. You don't know which way the seed is growing, if it's upside down, inside out, until you keep nurturing and nurturing until you get this little shoot that comes up from the top of the soil. And that's where your dynamics change. You take that pot and you put it near the windowsill, because plants need water and light to grow. Eventually that plant will outgrow the pot, and then you have a choice. You either put it into a bigger pot, which is growth, or you can cut it and sow it into your garden, which is scalability. And the same thing happens with toxicity. You see, we don't see it right at the beginning. It's a very invisible thing. People's agendas, the way people interact, and the reasons to why they interact with you, we don't fully understand and know. But over time, you'll see, why are you being held back? You see this whole imposter syndrome, that you're not good enough. Actually, it's not that you're not good enough. It's just that you've got people around you which are holding you back more than anything else. And it's so the first thing that I've got to say to you, Ace, is it's about the time. You've got to time and reflect. Don't judge. Look deep within, because whatever it is that you do within your life, you do it for a reason. There are some things that you get right, and there's some things that you get wrong. But the biggest thing that adds toxicity is influence. It's the influences of how other people want to do what they want to do with you. Now, how to remove it? It's almost like cutting cords. It can be a very painful exercise. It can be
Yeah,
a very painful exercise, but they say that whole no pain, no gain kind of situation. But essentially, life goes on. People we have everything. We lose loved ones. For every person that dies, there's someone that's born. So it all goes back around in cycles. I've had toxicity in my businesses, in my life. And it's taken me a long time to identify those, to remove them. I don't regret what I had in the past. I just look forward to where I'm going to be going, whether that means I'm on my own again, or if I'm going to be with a group of people. It's a selfish thing that you've got to look at. So toxicity, from that perspective, it's got to have a balance in two ways. What is your kind of mood and attitude, and the kind of the way you outlook on life? Your outlook on life, and this comes back to Jin Rohn stuff that Kul just said, is influenced by the people that you hang around with. If everyone sees red, you will eventually see red. If everyone sees blue, you'll eventually see blue. And that's the circle of influence that you have. But are you looking at blue in an environment that's red? That's toxicity. And it's how strong are you as an individual to turn around and say, I'm sorry, but this is no good for me, and I'm going to cut it out. And remember, that reduces the capacity that you have, which allows for new things to come in. At the end of the day, new blood can only come in if old blood goes out.
I think that's there's some great analogies there. I love the plant analogy that you've just given there, Kev. For me, it is all of that. But I think, how do you recognize toxicity, if you can even say it, is really a gut feeling. So firstly, once you really know yourself and you really understand what it is, the destination that you want to get to, whatever that might be for you, when you have something or someone in your life that you realize is pulling you away from that destination, which is coming from within, once you really have done some inner work on yourself and you really understand that this is your destination, and if somebody's pulling you away from that, that for me is toxic, because that's taking me away from my destiny, if you like. I don't use the word destiny much, but that's taken me away from what I perceive to be my destiny. And how do you deal with that? I've got really good at this now. So I have literally got to the point where I have to be selfish. I have to be selfish in order for me to be selfless, if that makes sense. So I know that I can only give as good as I give if I look after myself. So I put myself as number one priority in my life in order that I can give. You got to do it. You've got to do. So now I can put people off and walk away, knowing that, going back to what Ketan said earlier on, life is a constant cycle of change. Okay, so things will change, people will come, people will go, and you'll meet new people. So I now accept that life is a constant cycle of change. So if I have to let somebody go, somebody else will come along further down the line who is less toxic and probably more aligned with my values and where I'm going in terms of my destination.
But what it does do is, as you allow that toxicity to leave your capacity, your perception changes. You see, you don't still look at things the same way because you've experienced things in a particular way, which means that sometimes we are ships that pass in the night in that respect, where you think, if these two, had Wozniak not met with Jobs, would Apple exist, for example? All these kind of questions that we have built into this space. But you don't have to think about what doesn't happen. You just go look at where it is that you want to be and what is it that you want in life, and how, as I say, it comes back to the simplicity. How bad do you want it, and what are you prepared to sacrifice to get it? At the end of the day, I'm not trying to say that you've got to sacrifice everything to get to where you want to be, but you've got to have to work at it, and you've got to work hard at it, and it's a continual work on it. And know that it's the wheel of, it's not a wheel of procrastination, but it is a wheel that once you reach or almost reach that point of destination, the whole thing is going to change again. Your success factor is going to move to something else. So some people get the business bit right, and then they think, I want to have a better personal life. Other people I need to balance my personal life before I go for professional. And then others just max everything together. And then what you do is you become half average at everything. You're trying to do an all-rounder, you spread yourself thin, and you do shit at everything, basically. And as a point of that, people just say, I want to give up. The amount of depression that there is in new business owners, new founder owners. We talk statistically that 8 out of 10 people don't enjoy the work that they do when they work as an employer. I reckon there is a really high statistic, the amount of depression in business owners, not entrepreneurs. I want that word cut out from here. You're not all entrepreneurs. You're just business owners. In fact, some of you are just self-employed. You've just got yourself a job. Congratulations.
We were talking earlier on. I said to Kate, I really have got fed up with this concept of entrepreneurship because it's not all entrepreneurship. It's if anything, it's business. You know, you have to think like a business
Actually,
person, but everyone's jumping on the
it's not even
bandwagon.
business, it's busyness. But you know, people are
Busyness.
just
Yeah,
being busy. And you
absolutely.
know what? When they
Absolutely.
gratify themselves, say, "Oh, I've been really busy. That means I'm doing really well. You know, I'm succeeding. I'm really busy." No, you're not. You're just
Busy.
busy.
I've had a great day. I've been busy. Yeah, yeah, great, great.
uh,
But the other thing, Kate, you just touched on
yeah.
this is, I think one of the big killers in life, in business, in whatever it is that you're striving for, is this C-letter word,
Mm,
complacency. When you think that you've arrived and you don't need to do anything more,
mm,
when you think that you've got where you want to get to and you don't need to try any further. I think life is a constant growth thing. You constantly have to self-reflect. You constantly have to check yourself. You constantly have to think about how I can grow another 2 millimeters today. What do you think about complacency?
it's the cancer of everything for me.
Mm,
The thing is, you've got a lot of people that come into, and we'll talk. Let's talk it from a business perspective. You know, Robert Kiyosaki explains that in his quadrant of mindsets. You
mm,
know, from employee mindset to solopreneur or self-employed to business owner to investor. And we get caught into this rut that basically we need to produce clients to create income, which will support our livelihood. Then our egos kick in the fact that without us, things don't move forward. Um,
yeah.
you've got to understand that if you're in business, you're not an employee. You don't do things apart from build a system. And what happens is you then encourage other people to drive that system forward. And I think ego plays a big thing on complacency. People become comfortable, you know. So I know people that are contractors and consultants, and the consulting industry has this a lot because all you need is one or two nice sized clients which pay you a monthly retainer,
Mm,
and you become comfortable. But guess what happens? Anything can go around. NatWest and RBS just closed how many branches, and 600 odd
mm,
people lost their jobs.
yeah.
Anything can turn around tomorrow where people turn around and say, "I'm sorry, but we just can't do this anymore the way it is." And people, that's when everyone starts saying, "Right, I'm going up the creek without a paddle now," and that's where worry starts to instill. The imposter syndrome comes back in. All these different things start to manifest themselves. So complacency is that invisible cancer that can really kill your productivity, your abilities, and your potential.
There you go. Complacency is cancer. I think on that note, I've just realized we've been talking for more than an
That's
hour,
all right.
Kit, and we could probably carry on. In fact, maybe we need to do like an all-night session just talking about life and business in general. But I think we ought to call it to a close
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Thank you so much
No,
for being on here. I truly admire everything that you're doing. So, guys, I hope you've really enjoyed our conversation with Ket today, with Coffee with Kul or Green Tea with
green
Kul.
tea.
And look forward to seeing you all very soon. Ket, I'll catch up with you in a few minutes and have a chin wag because I got to learn some more from this guy.
Awesome,
Take care,
guys. Take
guys.
care.
All the very, very best.
Bye.
Bye bye now.